If you say you haven't been jealous of someone, you're lying. That's it. What do you think of when you think of jealousy?
Well, I immediately think the green-eyed monster.
Well, I think jealousy has negative connotations.
It's okay to be jealous. It's natural.
I think we can all point to certain moments where we've looked at someone else and wanted what they had in a way.
Maybe common thing in what jealousy means to me is when you see somebody living a life or living in the way that one strives for.
Welcome to Jealous Podcast, presented by Bing Bang. People are deworming themselves right now.
What is he talking about? I thought that was a dog thing.
Yeah, I did
Explain.
too. Okay, we have a couple TikTok people here. Grace being one of them.
Hold on. Do you mean like they watch TikTok constantly, or they're like content, like, let's use this word, are they influencers?
Grace has created a couple dances, and they're pretty good. They're pretty darn good. Well, okay, she hasn't created the dances. She's like copied a dance. So then yesterday we were sitting in a meeting. She's like, yeah, people are deworming themselves with Paragard. So they're taking this Paragard that is for humans, just like drops, and cleansing their bodies of worms.
And hold on. Okay, I'm going to throw back to like some crazy stuff that I thought was false, which was actually true, which is at one point, the largest, like, weirdest weight loss thing that I heard about that people are doing was like ingesting tapeworms things. You remember that?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then the tapeworm would like eat all the food they ate.
Yep.
And then when
Yes.
they decided they'd lost enough weight, they'd take the deworming stuff and kill tapeworms. So are we talking like these worms they're deworming just showed up naturally?
Yeah. They're finding out that they have worms in their body that they did not know that they had. So they're basically like, you could take this stuff and you can take it. And if you took it or I took it or you took it, I mean, there would be worms in our stools. They happen, like, especially if you, do you have pets? Do you have pets? Do you have dogs?
Yeah.
A little
Do you
nugget.
kiss your dogs in the mouth?
Absolutely. Tongue
You-
and everything. Yeah.
Me too.
Right.
So we have
We have
now
worms.
have worms.
But are we supposed to have worms? Like bacteria? Somebody goes like,
I mean-
you got bacteria in your gut. Ew. Like, no. I mean, like,
it's
that's
not
the
a
point.
tapeworm because, like, I would volunteer for a tapeworm.
Okay.
I would.
So there's no
To
healthy
lose weight?
worm.
Yeah.
We have to Google this. Is there a healthy worm we're killing that now all of a sudden we can't digest milk? Because you got rid of the lactose worm.
The lactose worm's like, hey,
Where'd I go?
I don't know, but I just thought that you guys should know that.
See, now this is a podcast I listen to.
And with that,
And also, there have been sharks in the Mississippi River. Did you
No.
know that? Yes.
Yeah, that I heard about. Freshwater sharks that swim upstream.
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
No, it's true.
True story.
It's true. You guys, this day I woke up and the first headline I read this morning was, studies show that wolves that have had interaction with humans still are not as tame as domesticated dogs. And I'm like, no shit.
Right?
It's a wolf.
It's a wolf. And then every headline I've read since I woke up, it feels like I'm living a joke. Everything feels like it's satire. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
I would like to cuddle a wolf, though. That'd be kind of fun.
You want to cuddle a wolf?
Yeah, I think so. Like a little baby.
You're like those people who think it's trendy to have a raccoon as a pet.
Those are not cute.
You are getting worms.
I am getting worms
You know those
from my
people
wolf.
I'm talking about.
My pet
I
wolf.
do.
I do.
Raccoon as a pet?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
They just like climb up and then they just have a conversation.
Right.
This raccoon's just
Yeah.
like nibbling on their
And also like birds. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't trust anything that comes from an egg. That's just a personal rule of mine. Like, I know we all technically come from an egg, but like an egg with like a hard, I just don't like
Like,
dinosaurs.
fuck omelets.
Yeah. Actually,
They are delicious
yes.
when I'm hungover, but fuck them.
Yeah, you try to make it get stuck and it's just like, then it's just a hash.
Never met an omelet I trusted.
Never met a omelet I trusted. Oh my
And with that-
goodness. And with that,
You had no idea we've already started our podcast.
this is the best way to start it.
I love it.
The best way to start it. Yeah. Welcome to Jealous Podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. This has been really fun so far.
It has.
It really has. I'm enjoying myself. I've never said that on a podcast.
Okay.
Well, then now we're done.
We're done.
Yeah, like I think you should quit. Game 6, like don't.
I'd be fine with that. We recorded one Friday and I acted like a total psychopath.
Like in what way?
It was the butter cow lady, and I was like, "You're amazing," which she is, and I am a huge fan of hers. But I was just like all up in her shit, and she was so kind. But you see, we take pictures, and you can see the fear in her eyes.
About like just you people's?
Yeah, just about Mackenzie and I.
You know that's people
Like
who
loving
spent
her.
their lives molding butter into inanimate objects with a level of likeness do so because they hate being around people, right?
Right, in a cooler. She doesn't want
Somebody doesn't just
there.
become a butter sculptor.
Yeah.
It's because they've isolated themselves from society,
She's
sat with
she's a
multiple
teacher.
pounds of butter, and worked on this craft. And here you are, throwing her into a podcast. What's wrong with you?
I know.
She handled us very well, though, in her defense. She was
I mean,
great.
she's used to dealing with hyperactive little children. so she's
Psychopaths
used
like
to it.
us.
Yeah, she's a teacher.
Can you imagine
She's a
this
teacher.
setup with you both and these mics is this year's State Fair butter sculpture? Yes.
Oh!
You know,
would
she'd get
love
my
that.
angles wrong, and I would be self-conscious for like 10 years. So
My nose would just be like, psh.
I just like
Okay.
ripped some skin off my lip.
We're here to talk about two things today. One, why Sid hates podcasts.
Yep.
And two, why Sid hates comedy.
Ooh, I don't hate comedy, but I see where you're going with that. I could talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. So, so you mentioned earlier before we started recording, 5 to 7 minutes is usually.
No, here's the thing about podcasts, right? Like, I feel like podcasts have jumped the shark because podcasts would normally started as like wanted to listen, now has become a thing where two people sit around and talk about how much they like each other. And at this point, if I'm not one of those two people, I just walked into a room where two people at a party awkwardly start making out,
Making
and you're
out.
like, why am I here?
Kissing each
Then you
other's butts.
back out of the room slowly, you know? And that's how I feel like most podcasts are like, let me tell you why I like you so much. Oh, let me tell you why I like you so much. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about why you like you so much. Cool, let's do that. And I'm like, okay, well, I used to like both of you, and now I'm just annoyed.
Couple fucking dorks.
Right? Like, at some point, like, the whole point of a podcast was to, like, engage me as a listener, right? But now it's more of like a billboard and advertise way of like saying, I want to tell you everything you need to know about me that you could have Googled, but now I have a forum in which I'm going to talk about it instead. And it's the equivalent of like getting into an elevator with someone and then knowing that it's stuck. So now I'm going to tell you everything about my company and me or personally. And I'm just like, how many more floors to go, right? And that's
Yeah.
how I feel about the podcast.
Yeah.
I get what I want to get out of it the first 7 minutes, and then it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, like I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and you will know when someone's out there promoting something, like not necessarily local, but so like a musical artist will release, you know, an album. I almost said CD and took us back to 1998.
Yes.
Ricky Martin. It's fine.
In sync.
And they'll go on the Conan O'Brien podcast and they'll talk about stuff, and then they'll go on the Dak Shepard podcast, and then it's like that. It's the exact same thing.
Right.
It's the exact same thing. And then that turns me off too.
Yeah, and we talked about why I listened to your own podcast, right? Like, I heard your podcast. I told you which elements I liked about your podcast. But at the same time, I enjoyed listening to it. And I'll be honest with you, I just realized this, so I'm going to be completely honest. Maybe it'll upset you, maybe it won't. I have no fucking idea what Bing Bang is.
That's good.
But you see what my point is, like, my listening to your podcast and one thing did not make me want to Google your company. And I have honestly, I'm looking around, and this is like an organic thought. I have no idea what happens here. This could be a cult. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a marketing agency. It could just be the three of you and have a frontage for a podcast where you illegally sell drugs out of the back. I have no clue.
We brought you here to talk about your car's extended warranty. So we're really glad that you asked.
But that's a compliment, right? Like, when I listened to your podcast, I wasn't completely inundated with your personal agenda of getting people to listen to this podcast so you could advertise what this place is. And I feel bad now. I'll Google it on my way out. But that's my point, right? This
Marketing.
wasn't a extended multi-episode you know, so I get there. But most times the podcasts that annoy me, it's for that purpose.
Yep.
Here's a guest we could half care about. We're going to act like we love each other so we can tell you about our products and company.
Yes. Yes.
Sure.
I know. I had to take a break myself from them, and also just because, especially during political season, and just, and not that I don't want to hear other people's opinions. I think we hear other people's opinions no matter what. We go on social media, I mean, just other people's opinions. But I had like a lineup of podcasts I was listening to, and I was just hearing all of these opinions. I agreed with some. I just like, I had to quit listening to podcasts and just start listening to music, because I'm like, it's just, I feel overwhelmed by, they have this microphone, and so they're just like, I can say whatever I want to say into this. And it's like, you're hurting my ears a little bit, my brain, and my feelings.
And we've also reached this part in society, and this is my, again, personal opinion, which is I'm going to be the least popular guest you've ever had on this podcast, because I'm just spouting my BS. I feel like we've lost the ability to have independent thought, because we put so much importance on thought leaders. And all we do is listen to thought leaders on things like Clubhouse and podcasts, and then somehow regurgitate their thought into our original thought by changing a few things about it, where at the end, anytime somebody has shared any thought they felt worthy of sharing, it's some bastardization of a Gary V. Simon Sinek kind of bullshit fucking opinion. And I'm just kind of like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
I've heard this thought
Yes.
from like 12 people who all claim to be amazing business leaders on LinkedIn, and none of y'all are giving me anything original, and I have no idea how you as a human being feel.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you're working for the weekend, then you're not really working. Gary V. I know.
Yeah,
I can't. I'm just like, I am done.
It's for some people,
done.
right? I get it. And if you want to take that and then live your life that way and become successful, that's great. But if you listen to Gary Vee like he's your Lord and Savior, and then do a podcast about the things Gary Vee's inspired you to do so you can inspire other people, you should just jump off a cliff.
The one thing that's good about Sid is that you never are questioning what he's thinking or feeling.
Absolutely new. I get everything I ever say in my life from Gary fucking Vee, dude. Let's go. That's my point. There's a time and place for everything. Be inspired by what other people say. Live your life that way based on that inspiration. But to then take what other people say, and then your only purpose in life is to inspire other people to be the next person who inspired you and not make any positive changes in your life. Stop, man. Thought leaders are people who lead thought because of action, not like regurgitating other thoughts and don't live the life you're trying to get other people to inspire to live. Like, come on.
Man.
So that's why you started a comedy club.
Yes. I like your segues. You should think about a career in comedy.
That was funny. Haha, that was funny. Anyway, comedy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm just kidding. No shit.
I think she just had a moment where she's like, am I one of those?
Uh-oh.
And with that, Sid's never coming back. No, I'm just kidding.
She's going back and deleting all her LinkedIn
So
posts.
we're done.
You are thinking about this.
No, I'm
way
not.
too
I'm
much.
not. I'm actually, we'll segue back into something else really quickly. That I was actually thinking about the one epiphany conversation that you and I have had recently, where we both figured out that we were Enneagram 7s.
Oh, yes. Number 7.
Do you remember that?
I love it.
So that was what's resonating in my brain, that Sid is pushes the cuff, but I feel you in your soul a little bit, because we're Enneagram 7s, the enthusiasts. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm a person of action, right? And I'm inspired by other people. Don't get me wrong. Not every thought I have is an original thought. But I first live it, understand it, implement it in my life, and then use my own personal experiences to inspire others based on how I was inspired.
Okay.
Not just like, I heard this on a podcast, I think it's a good idea, so I'm going to start telling everyone about it, and I've never once done it.
Or tried it, or implemented it, put it in my own action, my own life. Yep, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Like the one time you built a handicap accessible stage in a day
Absolutely.
or in a night.
Yeah, of course, because the fire department said we needed it, so we got it done. But the point of it was not like, oh my God, we have to put a handicap accessible ramp on a stage. I understood what the need for it was, because that's about people, and I've watched it happen. And I have some good comedians that have performed on my stage that are in a wheelchair, and I see the importance of that. And the reason for that is you're about to come on stage and be funny, and the crowd is now going to consider you a comedian. And I've watched a person about to do jokes being lifted uncomfortably onto a stage by 4 other people, and then have to roll up to a mic and tell jokes. I mean, at that point, half of you are going to laugh because you're like, poor guy, that was an ordeal. But at the other time, I'm like, that's not how I want to be first perceived before I start telling jokes. You know what I mean? So I was happy to do it. But it's one of those things where it's like, you have to see why you're doing it.
Right.
And then it doesn't feel like a pain in the ass.
Right.
Even though you did it over a course of a night.
Of course.
And you had the,
16 bush lights. I don't even like bush lights.
Now that's what do we call it?
Water beer.
Water beer.
Water beer.
That's just staying hydrated, and that's responsible.
Ooh, that's a good way. You just trademarked that on your podcast, so now nobody can steal it. Water beer. You heard it here first.
Yeah, you did. You heard it.
Water
you
beer.
saw it here first.
not to be confused with the seltzer.
That's right. But really, even that, like being told you have to build this ramp or you have to make it handicap accessible, that would someone else that's not like a doer or an executor like you, they would just bitch about that for, the time it took you to drink the 16 bush lights. I mean, there's just people that aren't like that. I mean, you just even starting your own comedy club, like you did that.
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, first, let's talk about the fact that up to this point, we opened up in January 2020. 28 days later, there was the talks of a pandemic. We got shut down within the first 3 months of us opening, survived a pandemic, and here we are, right? That alone is an accomplishment.
Yes.
However, none of this, and I'm sitting here as testament to this, has anything to do with me knowing what the fuck I'm doing. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I'm doing. Still.
Good.
Because if I did, then I would have had a plan. If I had a plan, it wouldn't have worked out because nobody expects a pandemic.
Thank goodness I didn't take the time to make a plan.
Exactly. And we've pivoted so many times, it'll make your head spin. And if somebody asks me what the comedy club's about, what the vibe is, I can explain it to you now, but I cannot explain it in a way that was the original thought behind it.
Right.
We took what was given to us, we did it, and we liked it, and we kept it. And the things we didn't like, we stopped doing. And then at the end of the day, the only things we kept doing were the ones that made us happy and the people who are there happy. And people are like, you shouldn't do this. When we first opened up, like I'll give you examples, physical examples. You can't have your bar inside a comedy club because it's too noisy, right?
The bar.
The bar.
Okay.
And that makes sense. It is noisy as hell in our comedy club. But I'll tell you the difference between our comedy club and any other comedy club okay, let's talk about it first. Like, it's a comedy club, not like a restaurant or bar that sometimes has a comedy night. It's a comedy club. The reason the bar was a bad idea to everybody else is because it was too noisy and it had never been done before. Because if you go to the Funny Bone, think about it. The bar's outside, you get your drink, the somebody brings you a drink. Our bar's inside there, and the reason it worked is because after a show, people hang out for 2 hours. The show may be 90 minutes, but people are there for 2 hours after the show. They just, because the bar's right there. They don't feel like they shuffled in an hour after the show like cattle.
Right.
Now, if I'd said that was the plan, I'd be lying. And I should, because then I'd be Gary Vee on a podcast talking about my ingenious idea of having a bar inside a comedy club. And how I changed the comedy game, baby, to make people stay after a show. But I didn't. It was 3,000 square feet and I had no freaking place to put it. There was no outside. It's all inside. So we took the situation and we made it work. And we saw that it was working. We didn't try to be less noisy. We didn't try to hide the bar. We had just acknowledged it, man. And we said, okay, here's the bar. Now, how do we make sure this bar is not a pain in the ass? Make sure it's a nice looking bar. It's not just a brown box. It's got like, it looks like the place you want to hang out in.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like, we didn't have a plan. We just took what we were given and we made it work.
I respect that so much. I mean, we've had multiple people on here who are entrepreneurs or whatever, and they said if they waited till it was perfect or they waited till their plan was perfect, then they'd still be waiting and they wouldn't have done it. So I think that's super, super cool. I wish I had the balls too.
You do.
I mean, I don't. I checked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, physically.
Melanie's like, shut up.
Testicles. I mean, like, in that case, like, maybe, I'm seriously lacking in that department too. But my point being is, like, anyone can do anything, right? It's whether you're afraid to fail or not.
Right.
But if you don't have a plan, you can't really fail.
That's a good point. Have you always been like that?
No.
No, you haven't?
No, because I lived a very structured life up to a certain part of my life. And then I still followed structure to get to where I needed to be in my career and things of that nature. And then after a while, when I gotten to where I wanted to be from a personal goal standpoint, I realized I didn't owe anyone anything else.
I like that. So how did you know comedy? How did you know comedy and the comedy club was was the answer or the decision you were going to make at that time?
So I started doing comedy. Acting is my passion, right? But the point is that time in Des Moines, there weren't a lot of acting gigs for people like me because, there weren't a lot of like roles that extended the standard theater fare. Like, for example, like if I were to do Shakespeare on the lawn and it was Merchant of Venice, I would have to read for the Prince of Morocco.
Right, sure.
And that's a true story. That's a role they did give me.
Congratulations.
But since then, now I'm a resident actor at the Iowa Stage Theater Company, right?
Okay.
I won a Chorus Award for my first play in Des Moines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that really dark and dreary
yes,
one?
the dark and dreary one.
Yeah.
My point being is, given the opportunity, I was able to do something I was able to shine at.
Yep.
But it was opportunity that was limiting me.
Okay.
So when it came to theater, the roles may not have been what I was telling myself as an excuse. It was the fact that I was so focused on my career and my life, I didn't have time to do rehearsals and things of that nature. So I was lying to myself by saying like, oh, these roles are not here because I didn't do anything active. The play that I won the Chorus Award for, I was actively campaigning to bring that play to Des Moines. I did the play reading for it many, many years before the play things. So I'm a liar when I say I was using like, there's no plays for brown people. That's why I didn't get into acting. I'm a freaking liar. And I was.
Yeah.
Because when I cared about something, I made it happen.
Right.
So I was using it as an excuse before. And the real excuse was I didn't have the freaking time
Yeah. Yeah.
to do 6 months of rehearsals because I wasn't passionate about these roles.
Yeah.
So at the time I was lying to myself. I wanted to still get that theater stage experience, so I started doing improv.
Okay.
And those shows you don't have to rehearse for. I mean, you practice and stuff like that. And I got into comedy because Last Laugh opened up in where Billy Joe's was, which is now something else. And then they had comedy open mic, which then took me into stand-up. And then stand-up allowed me to really thrive in comedy because my POV was not something that Des Moines comedians were used to hearing. Because everyone was like, I'm a straight white dude talking about my penis, man. like that was Des Moines comedy, right?
White woman talking about my balls.
No, but
so.
it was I'm a straight white man talking about my penis, and here's the other half of the show, which is a straight white woman talking about how much she hates straight white dudes talking about their penis. It's like, okay, cool.
Neat.
Yeah,
Insert
but it's,
Sid.
yeah, and then I come in and start talking about how much I hate people in Ankeny, and like about doing my jokes, which aren't because the point with like people doing racial comedy is that before I started doing what I was doing, there was two kinds of comedy. There was the ones that was self-deprecating about your race, and I don't like that. I'm a proud Indian brown man, dude. I love being me, and I want to talk about it in a way that makes me proud of my heritage, my place in this culture and society. I don't give a shit. Yes, life has dealt me adversities, but I'm still proud of who I am. Or outside of self-deprecating, there's alienating half the room. Like,
Right.
I am now going to make fun of the other representation of this room that's not me. And all the rest of you that look like me, we're going to have a good time. This person's going to feel like an asshole. And so, I don't know, I thought there was a better place to do racial comedy and talk about my life as a brown person in Iowa in a way that was not self-deprecating, but also everyone laughed at, but everyone was also getting equally fun and made of. Like I tell jokes about winning, a prize at an Ankeny Chamber of Commerce event. And I didn't win a car or money. I win a year-long tanning package. Like the entire city of Ankeny sits around picking prizes, and not one person's like, I think a brown person's gonna win today, So everyone's gonna enjoy it, and white people are like, you're right, First show I did in Ankeny, I walked into a country club. Literally, I was booked for a show in Ankeny, and I walked in and I said, "Who's your diversity coordinator?" And everyone looked around, and I was the only non-white person in the room. And I lean into that stuff because, come on, it's apparent. I don't have to walk on eggshells around it. You're the whitest city in America. And I love it. So we just hang out. We do stuff like that. And that's how I started to get better at comedy, because I started to bring my personal and unique POV into my comedy that then opened up opportunities. And what I realized in comedy was missing in Des Moines was not an independent place for people to express that. I think I've been talking too long. This is a podcast. I'm tired of talking about myself. What do you guys have to add to this conversation?
But I do have questions. I have more questions. No, I love that. I love that how you kind of found your POV and you honed in on what you were going to do, because comedy, I love comedy. I do. I follow a lot of comedy. I have a lot of favorite comedians.
She's pretty funny on Twitter.
Ooh,
Bo
I should
Burnham.
follow you.
Plug for you.
I just followed you this morning. The last time I followed someone right before recording a podcast with them, he was like, "Why is the soccer mom following me on Twitter?" And it really hurt my feelings, but he unfollowed me since, so it's fine. We're
Is that a
done.
category you put yourself in? I'm very
No.
interested in this.
No, my kids are too young to play soccer.
Okay, then why soccer mom?
I don't know. That's what he said about me.
Which part of town do you live in, Waukee?
Altoona.
Ooh, okay, cool.
Toontown,
Yeah,
baby.
you saw it. Okay.
So, any Hoosers, now this is all about me. Where was I going with that? Oh, Bo Burnham, the Inside Netflix special. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. I
Okay.
think you'd really like it.
Okay.
Very unique thought.
Right.
But comedy, like podcasting, a lot of it's just so easy to listen to something else and then like make that your own. So I feel like there's a lot of copycat comedians out there. So I
Absolutely.
love the fact that you kind of found your own way in that way. You're like, there's something he's doing, I don't like that. There's something he's doing, I don't like that. This is what I like. So I think that's very cool. Just want to make a point about that. And then, but who are your like comedic role models? And
There's
I am
a
really
lot. I
curious. I,
mean,
wrote
like,
this down.
You
to
know,
ask
I
you.
like it's all about different forms, right? And now that I've actually started to do comedy and I teach the comedy class at TEAS, which at first I was apprehensive about because I'm like, what do I know to teach a class in comedy? You know, there's people who have been doing comedy longer.
Can I
but
take
then
it? Can I take your class?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
That'd be fun.
Eric started taking it.
Really?
Yeah, and then that's the point. It's like I had to get over that mentality of I'm not good enough to be able to do it. And now that I've seen that many classes in, the people who've come through TEAS class are now producing their own shows. They're considered good enough comedians that comedy clubs across the country and festivals across the country are putting them on their stage. Now I have the validation that says, okay, I know what I'm doing. But here's the thing. I've never taught a person to be funny because that has nothing to do with comedy.
Right.
That's a gift that
Right.
you are given.
Right.
But what I teach people in the class is proper joke writing, work ethic, and to build a network around them that then allows them to succeed because they have the support they need. And there's nothing other than my class that you couldn't get by buying any other book on comedy and reading it.
Yep.
But it doesn't help you with the work ethic part, which
Yeah.
forces you to work, forces you to be accountable,
Yeah.
to write jokes and then perform them. And it doesn't give you a support system of people that force you and then sit with you when you do your first open mic, then give you a piece of what you love to do. And that's all I'm giving people is opportunity.
Yep.
I'm not, the tools to succeed can be found through Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole point of this comedy club. It's not because Des Moines needed comedy. Des Moines just needed a place for people to express themselves. And the Funny Bone is an amazing comedy club, but they have national touring comics. And if you're even someone like Jerry Seinfeld, you can go to the Civic Center and blow it out. Or if you have racist puppets, you can come in October and see Jeff Dunham. Or my show, which I'm doing on the same night, which is Sid with another bunch of racist puppets. And I don't know how to use puppets, but I got between now and October to figure it out. It's going to be a great show. I put it out on Facebook, so it has to happen now.
It has to. If
I'm
it's on
doing it-
Facebook,
yeah.
it's
I'm going to compete with a 7,000 seat show with me and 40 people watching me be racist with fake puppets. But stuff like that, right? Like, so there's a progression in a city to have a comedy scene where there have to be like, okay, there's still shows happening at bars. I was at an open mic last night at a bar, not
Yeah.
mine.
right.
I was in an apartment building watching a comedian who was staying with another comedian, and that comedian put out flyers in his own apartment building, and they had a comedy show in the common room. I was at that one, and it was amazing. There's comedy happening in all pockets like that all over town. And there's 3 open mics in Des Moines now. There's one in Ankeny even. You know what I
There
mean?
is?
Oh, yeah. But the point of that is those have to exist for TEAS to exist. And for TEAS to exist, the Funny Bone has to exist. For the Funny Bone has to exist, the Civic Center. And there's a natural progression of where artists and talent can express themselves. Not everyone who can be on TEAS stage can perform at the Funny Bone. Not everyone who performs at a coffee shop in Waukee can be on TEAS stage. But there has to be a place for everybody because otherwise you're never going to get anywhere.
Right. You have to learn. You have to cultivate your craft and learn and grow. Right.
Right.
Correct. And so the shows we have are not typical to comedy clubs. It's just not because we have weird shows. For example, 4th of July, I did one show which was all first-generation immigrants. That was how we celebrated America's freedom. On a Friday night, our entire lineup was people who were first-generation immigrants. They moved to this country after they were born, right? Immigrated here. Unique point of views. We had a guy from like a person from Yemen, this and that. Like, just, it was all cool. The other show on 4th of July was, I made the post and I said, look, Teehees has a very diverse lineup. We have an all-black show every month with Black Iowa Streams in collaboration with them. You should look them up. They're amazing. We did an all-Asian lineup during the Asian festival. We did the first all LGBTQ plus lineup to open up Pride Month in collaboration with Capital City Pride. But there's one demographic that, we've aimed so hard to be diverse and inclusive, we totally left out. We listened to the people and we looked at, and that's the name of the show, was Straight White Dudes. Like, literally, it was the most underrepresented demographic on our stage. And so we leaned into it.
Poor
Those poor white guys.
But it's funny in its own, but it's funny because it was true.
Yeah.
Straight White Dudes have never had a majority of our comedy, which blew my mind. And now I understand why they were complaining. And they're absolutely right.
Oh my God.
Just because the rest of the country doesn't have the problem doesn't mean they're not right in Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh my goodness.
And they had an amazing show. It was killer.
Good for them.
Yes.
They don't have enough.
Finally.
No,
They don't have
finally,
enough.
They don't. Poor things.
That's the kind of vibe we have, man. We just don't give a shit.
That is great. Oh my gosh.
And my cheeks are
I know.
are a little sore from smiling right now.
I know.
So you guys tell me, though, I'm making this about you guys. So I'm going to give, let's get honest here. We're friends here, right?
Yep.
Let me give you some shit.
Okay.
Soccer mom whose kids are too young to play soccer.
Yeah. Yep.
Working in whatever this front for selling drugs is out in Waukee. Lives in Altoona. Do you drive a minivan?
I don't.
Okay,
Proudly.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Pandemic aside, right? Have you gone to a bar or a brewery, had a beer in the last 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like you've got you're breastfeeding your kids everywhere you go. You get free time, right?
I do. Yeah.
Right.
I do.
Fair?
Yeah.
Why have you never set foot into a comedy club on 15th and Walnut in Des Moines, Iowa?
How do you know I haven't?
I'm asking, have you?
I haven't.
There you go. And let me ask you a question. Not having had that experience, Melanie aside, here I am talking about my comedy club and you telling me how much you love it, which is great. But so are a bunch of everyone else in Des Moines who telling me how much they love this concept and how unique, and let's have you on a podcast and talk about it. What do I need to do to get you into my door?
I mean, after this conversation, I am going to do it.
Right. So how many
am.
conversations do I need? There's 200,000 people I haven't talked to, but
You need to get with Jacob Rep.
Jacob's been to. I could tell you stories about. Actually, first off, let's talk about Jacob Rep. For those listening to this podcast and also heard Jacob Rep's podcast and also know Jacob Rep as a person, this was Jacob Rep on the podcast. I'm Jacob Rep. This is my radio voice.
He did give a lot of dramatic pauses.
Oh yeah.
And
oh
I
my
was like,
God.
what's happening?
I know. I'm Batman.
Let's go.
No, but Jacob Rep's a good supporter of the club. He's been in there. He's seen some shows, and that's one of the things where it's like, we can get into some of the things about our conversation too. It's like, I get it. It's a great concept. I love what I have. And trust me, we've got plenty of supporters. We sell out shows. So this isn't like me saying you got to come to save a business. I don't care. I'm asking you, if you love it so much, why does the love stop there?
Right. No, that's a good question. I guess it shouldn't for anybody, right? Because I feel like comedy, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke.
Right.
It's a very unifying. I feel like there's not someone. Are there people that don't like comedy? Don't enjoy comedy?
Well, yeah. I mean, the same people who probably don't like puppies.
Right.
The same people who
Or they have raccoons for
yeah, who
pets.
tell people they have a gluten allergy when they don't.
CrossFitters. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Dun, dun, dun.
How are you a CrossFitter? Yeah, but I've been here for 45 minutes and you haven't mentioned it once. At least wear the T-shirt subtly.
Oh my gosh.
Where's it?
That's hilarious.
Oh god.
But back to your, I think it's just awareness. I
Okay.
mean, I really do. I think it's awareness. Because if someone knows that this exists, they're going to try to get there.
I hope so.
I absolutely think so. I mean, again, I love comedy, so I'm for sure going to. But, I mean, just everything you said, and it's not just a comedy club. I mean, you think about so much the diversity and the inclusion this is a place that people really need to be.
And my earlier breastfeeding comment, let me tell you why I said that. Because the number one excuse I hear from people is like, oh, my kids, man, my kids, like they're just attached to the teat. But they forget, I see your Snapchat stories. I see your Facebook stories.
Yeah.
I see the fact that you binge watched whatever that new show is that everyone's watching, Bridgerton or whatever. You have the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I see you doing plenty around town without your kids.
Yeah.
So that was my way of saying, your kids are not attached to your body 24/7. No. So don't give me that bullshit.
My kid is definitely not.
Kids have become an excuse.
Say, oh no. I will say, get a breast bump. Yeah. And I will also say,
I just couldn't think of another way that kids are physically attached to a body.
I know. There are people like me though, and I am bad, and I'm not making excuses, but I'm the type who doesn't trust anybody. So, and I don't have family around here, so I haven't ever hired a babysitter.
Okay.
I have never hired a babysitter, but that is not an excuse because I do have parents that I can drop the kids off with and come.
Right. Or just wait for a nice 50-degree day and leave them in the car,
October should be great. Well, October 15th for the racist puppets.
I mean, I don't want to burn when I'm like,
you have a date.
Des Moines' most famous comedian, Dante Powell, has a bit on this, so I'm not going to get further into it, but it's one of my favorite bits about, why Iowa is the greatest place to live. But I suggest you buy his album, Squirrels Get Fat, on iTunes. Dante Powell comedy, one of the greatest comedians to ever come out of Des Moines onto a national stage. Check it out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was our word from our sponsors. You just took care of it for us.
Boom.
Just kidding. We don't have that. We're not quite there.
No.
The cartels don't sponsor you for this front?
Yeah, right. Last time we tried, they sent us like a human head and just, it was ugly. It was bad.
messy.
Have you ever talked about what you do on your podcast?
We sometimes do. We'll talk about our sponsors. We have this TV running.
Look at that. What do you do?
We are a marketing company. We are a full-service marketing agency.
Okay. So when you started this podcast, how much of it was like, hey, here's the thing. We are a marketing company. We got to have a podcast. Or was it like, yo, I like podcasts. I want to have one?
No, yeah. It was never about what we do. It was definitely a passion project.
Okay.
Which I love. We wanted to do it for forever. We talked about it for forever. I was like, this is a really good idea, like jealousy, like everyone's jealous of someone, blah, 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 blah. My boss, Brandon, was like, then fucking do it then. Do it. And it took the pandemic for him to be like, you're doing it. I'm like,
nice.
No, I hate the sound of my voice. I'm awkward in conversation. I don't want to interview people like I can't. And he's like, well,
except her voice is great and she's beautiful blue eyes and she is witty. And
no,
here
but
we are.
we're all like, it's just probably the same because I wanted to ask like how it was for you to get up on the stage for the first time practicing your comedy. I feel like that's just like the same. It was like taking that leap, taking that jump, taking that risk and not being afraid to fail. And I mean, we were in the middle of a pandemic, so I was like,
well, you're not in a pandemic now. Do you enjoy doing it?
I love it.
Good.
I love it.
That's all you have to do, right?
Yeah. And there'll be days I'm like, oh, I can't turn it on, but it just happened. I mean, it just
If
happens.
I send you the dates for the August class when I get them figured out, will you take it? Then you never have to come to a show.
I'm
then
like
you've paid your penance.
Breastfeeding.
Your
again.
you can. That's class 2. If you just get through intro to comedy, we can get to the breastfeeding in class 2. Don't just baby steps, okay?
Yeah. Something. I mean,
I think
like
she's
that.
been called out. I think you've been called out
I know.
on our own version of our national stage.
I do want to
do
be the
this.
modern day marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Is that the?
Yeah, we have a show called Tits Up.
Do you?
Absolutely. It's the last Saturday of every month. In fact, I'll save you a ticket. There you go. Now you know what you're doing on July 30th.
All right. That's so fun.
7 and 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
Tickets available on teehescomedy.com.
And that was another word from our
See, this is
sponsor.
why I hate podcasts. See, I just did that. Like, that is what I'm talking
You just did
about.
the one thing you hate doing.
Yes, but
You're here to promote
I didn't even
yourself.
do it ironically. I actually did it. And I hate myself for it.
I was going to ask you where we can find you, but that's probably, you probably don't even want to go there anymore.
You have
After
to.
this, in the parking lot, crying myself to sleep.
I can't believe I fucking said that.
I love the fact that you said, your boss said, let's do this podcast during a pandemic. And the first guest you have here today goes, I don't know what the fuck you guys do.
Okay.
Well, this is working out great.
We got to push the
Glad your
envelope somewhere.
passion project is working out for Bing Bang.
It's a passion project.
You're like number 40 something. I mean, there's been many more before you,
Perfect.
so.
Perfect.
Have you ever listened to a podcast that's on episode 374 and gone back to listen to episode 40 though? Rough. rough.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Like, I can't get through Joe Rogan's podcast anymore because of all the product placement and the plugs in the first
No.
20 minutes of it, and then I lose interest. I also hate like podcasts with like people who forget that they're having a podcast. Like we're having a conversation. I had to check myself because I felt like I'd been talking too long.
But that's like, what are we supposed to do? Just sit here and breathe?
No, but I've been saying, like, if you and I was sitting at a patio having a beer
Live.
outside of a podcast,
Yeah.
I would have shut the fuck up 20 minutes ago because I felt like I'd have just been talking to you for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I'm
Talking
saying?
at
Like,
you.
yeah.
I get that.
Who's doing it well right now, in your opinion, then?
Who's doing podcasts well?
Yeah.
Just this podcast episode. This episode
this
only.
only
like
this
in the
episode.
entire world.
Yeah.
And
I
even
would
this one
agree.
jumped the shark like 42 minutes
Jealous
ago.
brought to you by Bing Bang.
I would agree. I would agree. And we have been trying to reach you for your car's extended warranty. Again, we're done.
Right.
No, yeah. I don't know. I used to listen to the true crime, the murder.
Oh, I like the Serial was my favorite.
Yes.
Yes.
Serial with Sarah Koenig.
Yes.
Yes.
So good.
What was his name?
Adnan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one after that following, and then
Oh,
there's
the guy in the South?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's like, then they had like a criminal podcast where like they were following the criminal justice system in like Ohio and how
Yes.
things. Yes, that was
Yep.
amazing too. Like
That
that
was-
kind of stuff I like.
that was the best
Science
podcast.
versus another one doing it right. Amazing things. They like debunk things based on and give you the things. And she has just this amazing Australian accent.
Okay.
And like I just just basically like did the one thing that pisses me off, which is like Eurocentric things are always better. Like it was weird. I just did the same thing.
I like that.
Like I like
I
Australian
like
accents
that
are
hit.
good, but nobody respects an Indian accent. Like damn it.
Yeah.
I respect your Indian accent.
Oh, thank you.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, but yeah, Science Versus is a great show. You'd love it.
All right.
Yeah.
We are literally out of time. I hate to cut
Perfect.
this
We
short.
are?
God,
Yeah.
shoot
know.
this horse.
Sid's like, I need to
We need to
stop
shoot this
talking.
Freaking fly.
I know. Well, Sid Juwarker, thank you.
Yeah,
Today's
I don't
Comedy
think
Club.
we covered anything that a typical podcast does, so that actually is a success in my book.
This was fun. And I'm not even just saying that this time. This time. No, really. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm
I
jealous
am-
of your ability to have so much fun with so little.
Not much going on up here. Doesn't take too much. So,
See Mackenzie on Tits Up on July
30th.
30th.
Yes.
7 and 9 p.m. She's going to be on stage.
I love it.
yeah, no. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sid.
Bye.